All right, so again, on these examples, guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of a start here, and then I'll start working through them so that you can see what the answers are supposed to look like. But let's get the first one started, just so you remember what to do. So we're going to take this equation and write it exactly like it is. So we have y equals negative 5 minus 2. But then instead of putting the x here, I'm going to put parentheses and, in this case, negative 9, exactly. So I'm going to plug the negative 9 in, or substitute the negative 9 where the x is. So this is, remember, this is multiplication here. So it's negative 2 times negative 9, which is positive 18. So it's going to be negative 5 plus 18. That's the same thing as 18 minus 5. What is that? 13. All right. If you want, it's okay if you don't write the 13 in there, but you just put it over here in the y, but I'm going to write it in there. So we've got 13 there, which is going to be my y value. And then what's the ordered pair going to be? Negative 9, comma 13, and don't forget the parentheses. Go ahead and continue with the other three. So when you finish your function table here, once we've plugged in each of these x values into the equation, we should get these ordered pairs here. So check to make sure you have the right answers. If you disagree with any of them, check to see what we did wrong there. This next one here looks a little different, doesn't it? So there's something going on here that this actually is a little bit more like what a function's going to look like. All the examples we've done so far, instead of this thing here that we read f of x, so the way we read that is f of x, instead of that we've had a number. So we read this f of x. And what this means is that f is a function, and we're going to put x values into that function. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to write this f of x equals 3x minus 5. That goes in the top of your work column there. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be plugging in negative 2 for x. We're going to be plugging in 0 for x. We're going to be plugging 2 for x and 6 for x. And the f of x is just going to be the same thing as y. So it's just a different way of writing it. Now, there is one thing we want to do when we substitute that has to do with this f of x also. Since we're putting the negative 2 in for the x here, I also want to put the negative 2 in for the x where?
For the parentheses?
Yeah, this also. So the way we're going to write that is going to be f of negative 2. And what this means is I'm putting negative 2 in for x in my function. Yeah, so this means that negative 2 is what we're putting in where the x goes. All right, so the way we read this is f of negative 2. And then we write equals, and we do everything else the same. So we've got 3, parentheses, negative 2, minus 5. Now, probably the trickiest thing about this is that this does not mean f times negative 2. Every time in the past when you've seen this kind of thing where you have a letter next to a parentheses, it means multiplication. This is what's called function notation, and it looks the same. Okay, so what we're going to do is what this means is that we're putting negative 2 into the function for x. All right, and then we simplify this exactly the same way as we did before. So what is 3 times negative 2? Negative 6. So we have negative 6 minus 5, which is? Negative 11. Good. So we get negative 11 for our y value, or our f value. And so what I want you to do in this one, this is a little bit different. So I want you to pay attention here. Instead of just writing the negative 11, you're going to write f of negative 2 equals negative 11. So what this means right here is it's the same thing as saying y equals negative 11, kind of like what we were doing in the last examples, except it tells us that the function equals negative 11 when x equals negative 2. So it tells us not only the y value here, but it also tells us the x value. So we can just use this right here to write our ordered pair. we know that x is equal to negative 2, because that's what's in the function here. And we know y is equal to negative 11, because that's what the function equals there. So just like the last example, I want you to go through and try to work these out, and try to keep this new notation straight. All right, so this is a new way of writing things, but it's really the same thing we've been doing. We're just writing it in a little bit of a different way. So don't forget to put the x value, the number for x, into the function here, and then also into the equation here. And then once you simplify it, you're going to write f of whatever the x value is equals whatever the y value is. So on the second one here, we'll do another one together just so we get the idea. What are we putting into the function for x now?
0.
We're putting 0 in. So we're going to show that by writing f of 0 equals, and then we're going to write the 3x minus 5, but instead of x we're putting the 0, so 3 parentheses 0 minus 5. And what is 3 times 0?
3 times 0 is 0.
That's 0 minus 5. What is 0 minus 5? Start at 0, you go down 5, you get to negative 5. And so in this column right here, we're going to say f of, what should I put in the parentheses here? 0 equals negative 5. And then that'll help me write my ordered pair, because I know that I put 0 in for x. That's my first number. And then I got negative 5 for y, so that's my second number. All right, so when you finish your function table, check what we have up here. Make sure that yours looks like mine up front. Make sure that in this column here, you're writing the function at the x value, so f of 0, f of 2, f of 6 equals whatever we got for the y value, or the value of the function. And then we're also going to write those as our ordered pairs there. What we're writing here is just a new way of writing the same thing we've been doing with our function tables. So we're treating the y equals equation as a function. And what that means is we're putting an x value into it, and we can see with writing it this way what x value we're putting in. And when we do that, we get a y value out of it. All right, and we can see writing it this way what those y values are going to be. So this makes it easier to match up an x and a y value and write them as an ordered pair. All right. It also gives us the idea that we put something into the function and we get something out of the function. All right, so we're going to do one more. This function is not f of x, but it is g of x. So we can use different letters for functions. And so in this one, we're going to write our function g of x equals negative 3x plus 7 up top. And we're going to do the same thing, except we're plugging it into g instead of f. So let's do the first one together again, if you haven't done it already. So this time we're going to write g of negative 2. So this shows that we're putting negative 2 in for x. And so it's going to be negative 3 parentheses negative 2. So that's negative 3 times negative 2 plus 7. And what is negative 3 times negative 2? Positive 6. So we have positive 6 plus 7, which is 13. So then in the next box over there, we're going to write that out. So we're going to write g of negative 2 equals 13. And then we can write that as an ordered pair. Negative 2, comma, 13. All right, so go ahead and try to finish this function table on your own. All right, so the solutions to this function table are up there. As you finish yours, check your answers and make sure you got the same thing as ours. When you finish up your function table, then show it to us, let us know that you're getting them right, and then you can pack stuff up for the day.